Okay, it's time to talk about Saros. We got to talk about Saros. Okay. It's the first big, huge PS5 exclusive dropping this year, unless I'm forgetting one notable one, but give me a break. I got a lot to keep track of. Saros, it's the latest from Housemarque. It stars the wonderful Rahul Kohli. It is a roguelike third-person arcadey shooter type thing.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, IGN's review is up now. Michael Heim reviewed it, friend of the show, colleague, friend. Lover, whatever. He gave it a 7 out of 10, which is actually really low on the sort of general spread of review scores out there. Again, 7 means good. He thought it was a good video game.
How dare he?
Yeah.
How dare he? But we're gonna have words, Michael Hyam.
Mm-hmm. I also think this is a good video game too.
Yeah. That's a pretty nasty thing to say about a video game, man. Saying it's a good video game.
I'm trying to be meaner. No, so this is the brand new game from Housemarque, and if you're an old school PlayStation fan, you know that they have been cooking for decades now, making just like these guys have decided to make a very specific type of thing really well for a really long time. And I think that absolutely rules. Like, it is so cool that these guys have basically, and Jada, you know, we were talking about this the other day, they've effectively taken like a little bit of like the sort of like 90s arcade shmups, a bit of Robotron 2084 from the 80s, and they've kit-bashed them together, and they've decided to take that sort of pedigree and that type of video game that no one really makes anymore, and they've mixed it with some of the most gorgeous visuals and art direction. They've done it. They were there for the PS4 launch. They've made a ton of games for PS3. These guys have just been making like awesome shooting games for a really long time, and they made Returnal. And if you played Returnal, that is your sort of touchstone for where Saros will exist. And I think that Saros, while I think I dig the vibe of Returnal a bit more, Saros gameplay-wise clicked with me so much better because of a specific thing. I've gotten into a bunch of roguelikes over the last 10 years or so, like everybody else has. And I think that one thing Returnal kind of missed on was giving you that feeling of, even when you fail a run, there's a bit of number go up and you get a little bit stronger. Here, there are like meaningful rewards for even when you fail. You kill a bunch of people, you get a bunch of points, you bring them back to your home base, you dump them into your thing, and you get even stronger. You go back out and you do it again. And I think that is such a small change that has had such a massive positive impact on Housemarque's latest entry in, their prestigious library of just making kick-ass old school arcade shooters.
I'm kind of in the middle ground when it comes to the new skill tree they added, because I do think it is great for having that between run progression. And I think that is probably the best improvement they could have done from Returnal to Saros for capturing a new audience. I think this adds very key in this. I do feel the trade-off for that is in some of the build diversity is somewhat taken out in Returnal or in Saros compared to Returnal, because in Returnal, so much of your increasing your maximum health or getting a second revive or being able to revive once on death, or just having certain enhancements that was all determined on a little bit of RNG, which is not always, it's not going to hit for everybody. For me, it hit real hard because I love RNG in my games. Whether it's helping me or screwing me, I love RNG because
I do too.
I love that swing of emotion in my games.
Okay, so Jada, you're getting very granular here. I want to sort of zoom out a little bit here.
Please.
I didn't play Returnal.
Yes.
I remember I kind of looked at it. I was like, this isn't really my type of game. I think since it came out, I have gotten a lot more into roguelikes and roguelites.
Mm-hmm.
I remember hearing that the one thing about that one is couldn't you not suspend your runs, or you couldn't?
You could not until like much later patches. They patched it in later.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, this one out of the box lets you
that too
put the game down and walk away. I mean, that was up there with like not being able to pause Bloodborne, being like, are you kidding me? Like, this is just seems like unnecessarily cruel. I will say, as somebody who just categorically sucks at video games that are deliberately hard, I do appreciate the way this, like, the slogan is "Come Back Stronger," and it feels like that. Like, it does give you it rewards you for your failures. I mean, it doesn't reward you for your failures, but it doesn't punish you too harshly for your failures. It doesn't feel like a complete Sisyphean waste of time, which roguelikes are kind of by design. It's Yeah, I mean, I will say the presentation is gorgeous. Just the basic moment to moment playing of this game feels good. Like it is
Amazing.
it feels good to shoot the gun and make it go pew pew bang bang zap zap. Like it is just a tight, wonderful feeling in that department. The thing that bugs me about this, and Michael kind of touched on this in his review, the sort of the final statement he gave. Let me pull this up. I'll just kind of. Why do I not have this open? I'm a fool. Yeah, he basically called out the fact that it's trying to tell a story, you know, like so many other Sony single player games are, and it doesn't necessarily always succeed in that department. And that's the thing that I think jumps out at me as being a little bit odd. Like you say that this is yet another of Housemarque's trademark games, but like this is, looking back, and correct me if I'm wrong, up until Returnal, they weren't really focusing on cinematic presentation or serious storytelling.
No, not really. I mean, it's something that I don't think the genre necessarily ever really excelled in. Nor did it need to, right?
I don't think it ever needed to, but I think we're better off for it having games that have excelled in that narrative. Look at something like Hades and Hades 2,
totally,
which are fantastic story-driven roguelikes that build upon each death. And this one does do that. This one does have some of that story building, but it's less relationship building that you get in Hades, whereas this one is more of, hey, shit is happening to everybody around me because of all these runs and everything that's happening on this planet. And like I enjoyed that story evolution that they got in this. So I disagree a bit with Chaim on this.
In
portion.
Returnal, did you have a hub, or did you just kind of go back? Like, were there people hanging around?
No, there was no. You were solo dolo.
Yeah, that's the sense I got, and like it very clearly they were taking some cues from Hades.
It felt very early Metroid game, actually. Like you were basically like, you know, this, not necessarily a bounty hunter, but you were on your own. Like it was very lonely.
I kind of dig that. Like I really, maybe I should go mess with Returnal, but like
I think you should. The
thing that I guess bugged me about this is like, again, it's the moment to moment gameplay is extremely arcadey. It is very tactile. It is very physical. You are very much in the moment. And then to come out of that and just you're chatting with like some sad scientists, it feels just it's a little bit jarring, and it's like I appreciate that it's trying to do that, but I guess it's an odd flavor profile, if that makes sense. Like it's
no, I totally get that. For me it was just like I'll split the difference between the two of you. I thought it was sort of cool, but I'm also like, it's not what I'm here for, and I feel bad because I went into this game from the jump knowing about it, you know, when it was first revealed, and being like, you know, they're clearly pushing for more narrative emphasis here, but that's not necessarily why I'm here. And if they want to put that stuff there, great. Like I'll probably watch a couple of cutscenes, skip a couple more, watch a couple more, and you know, on future runs, I don't know how much I'm really going to connect with that stuff. I thought it was cool that they slowly kind of peel back the layers of this world and what happened and what continues to happen, like Jada said. But ultimately, like, I want to get back out there and shoot shit. So that's the fact that it gives me that option is great. I don't feel like the story ever really gets in the way of me wanting to get out there and shoot shit. But it's also not like, it's not necessarily the kind of thing where I'm like, I can't wait to find out what happens next. It was just sort of there for me. And I appreciate that they attempted to build something there for people like Jada. But I think for the most part, like I'm here because it's like mechanically this is rock solid. Like moving around this world feels awesome. That air dash feels awesome.
Exactly.
The shooting feels awesome. Like I want to just get out there and shoot guys. That's
my thing is like I'm not about to dock it points for like I don't think the story is obtrusive. I don't think it gets in the way. It's just sort of not what I'm like. If I go to like a Japanese restaurant and they have spaghetti on the menu, it could be the best spaghetti ever, but I'm like, I'm not here for that.
I'll have questions.
What's that?
I'll have questions.
Yeah, it's just like this is sort of. I would say that Housemarque is in the narrative department. They're not they're not playing to their strengths, but it's not. They're still doing a good enough job.
Yeah, it's not, by no means is it a bad story at all in any way, shape, or form. It may not draw the conclusions that people expect of it or go the direction people expect, but that's kind of the whole nature of roguelikes and like Returnal. Like, it's about forming your own theories and like, oh, what did that flash mean when I respond this time? You see like 8 different images flash on the screen. What did that mean? Why was there a baby in a baby carriage here? Why is there a bottle of whatever?
Yeah.
You know, I'm not saying anything specifically. I'm making up imagery. So I don't spoil anything for people.
It's a cool idea, because what they're doing is they're taking this impossible situation of a roguelike where you are basically, you know, the Groundhog Day on shuffle pretty much, but like they're doing a good job of being like, hey, why is this happening? What's the reasoning behind this? And so they, you know, go to this crazy planet called Carcosa where there's like a satanic eclipse and there's a bunch of weird alien technology from some doomed civilization, and there's, you know, impossible stuff at play here, and you're trying to unpack what that is. And that's a cool idea, but I don't know. I guess my issue is that like a good story by definition is bespoke. It is handcrafted. It is, there's nothing random about it, and I get what you're saying, because it like I don't think anything in this story, any of the beats of the story are random, but it's at odds with the randomness of the nature of a roguelike of going through it. So exactly, yeah. And I mean, I would say the same extends to the sense of place and the sense of environment, where like the environments are cool, they're rad. Some of the wonder that comes across when you see them the first time sort of gets sanded off by seeing variations of them repeatedly. And I guess I would so much rather see for a game that has this level of detail and this level of presentation, I would so much rather it be boiled down into one, you know, handcrafted bespoke experience rather than have this kind of randomized version of it. And I realize that's, you know, the charm is that it's a roguelike and that involves some random elements. But yeah, again, I'm not going to say that that's something it did wrong. It's just something that I was trying to like unpack what wasn't working for me. And ultimately, like the moment to moment pew pew fucking rules. So
I dug this game. Amazing. I've rolled credits. I'm working my way towards the platinum. I think I have like 12 trophies left to grab. And most of them seem very reasonable. I absolutely love this game. This is probably my favorite of the year, right up there with Requiem and like Pocopia and stuff. Like, I absolutely love this. After rolling the first credits, I went and did an extra run, and that run lasted me over 2 hours, which isn't like a normal run as you're playing through the story, because they did the great job. They did a great idea for helping people finish the story of giving you fast travel points where you can start later through it. So most runs are like 30 to 40 minutes, which is something I was concerned about going into this, because they said, hey, you can finish a run in 30, 40 minutes. I was like, that's too short for me for what I got out of Returnal last time, which was like hour plus runs.
Oh, interesting.
I love that about Returnal. But now that they've added that fast travel to where people can finish it quicker, I think it's a great balance that now I can go in and be like, hey, I want to start at the first biome and I want to run through 4 or 5 biomes until it kicks me back because I finish a run. I want that. I want to push that challenge on my level. I want to try different weapons and see what I can do. Like, playing through the game, I hated the shotgun. I absolutely did not care for the shotgun weapon. My 2-hour run, I only used the shotgun because I needed a trophy involving the shotgun, and I fell in love with the shotgun after that 2-hour run. Like, it is such a good weapon. Now that I understand, I forced myself to use it more and like actually get the most out of it, to where I was shooting enemies from afar with it, and it would stagger them. And then I got like a blitz strike where I could warp to them like Noctis in Final Fantasy 15 and just like obliterate them. And then I was like shoot somebody else while I'm falling and blitz up to them. Like, great, just fantastic gameplay, moment to moment. Absolutely love this game. This is like an 8.5, 9 out of 10 for me. And I loved Returnal. Returnal was also that kind of 8 to 9 range for me. And so I absolutely adore Saros and highly recommend anybody who enjoyed Returnal to pick this up. And then if you're just kind of interested in it, I think it's still worth it with the changes to make it more competitive for people newly getting into roguelikes. I think it's still a highly recommend game if you like quick, fast, and very crunchy gameplay with lots of bullets and lots of guns.
I totally agree, and I think that it's going to be what you're willing to put into it, right? And I think that's where it gets tricky, is that this is a $70 game, and you need to be pretty good at it to see most of it, because it's tough, and there's some stuff in there that you can kind of turn on, and there's some, you can dump some points into some attributes and stuff to make yourself stronger and better, and all that's really cool. But that $70 video game is going to mean that you're going to spend those first couple hours seeing a lot of the same environments, a lot of the same conflicts over and over and over again. And that's that your mileage may vary on what you want from that. And I think with some people, like, you can spend that $70 on, an open world game, and you can see all these different things and go in all these different directions. Or you can play it, Call of Duty, and just, run around in circles and play different multiplayer matches with people, right? Buy skins in Fortnite. All that money goes in different directions these days. So for this specifically, you're really getting a very old school experience with a very, very, very polished modern coat of paint. And I think if you're not into roguelikes, you're not into arcade shooters, like, knowing that this game has a story, I'm hoping that you don't just file it next to other narrative third-person action games that Sony has published, because this one's going to push back in very specific ways differently. And so, manage those expectations a little bit. I guess that's kind of it, is that, like, all of the stuff we've seen about this game, all the way it's kind of presented, is really hyping up the cinematic narrative nature of it, which is in line with all of the other PlayStation Studios offerings. Like, they very much, and we love that. We love a good, first party PlayStation game with a prestige story and great presentation. But it is sort of odd that this is, the moment to moment gameplay it's a different experience. Like, it's much more rooted in this kind of old school arcadey sensibility.
Can either of you guess what my favorite mechanic is in this game?
Is it punching people?
Close.
Okay.
Is it shooting people?
Me, mass murderer Jada in the games.
Oh, what is it?
Parrying. I absolutely love the parry in this game, which I did not expect to love a parry in a bullet hell like this, but the rush I get, and when I hit that parry on those wall of red orbs flying at me is so good.
Explain the parry mechanic to people, because it's a little different in this than just your sort of typical third-person action game.
Yeah, so you have 3 different colors of projectiles of attacks coming from enemies outside of obviously melee strikes. You have the blue orbs, which you can absorb with your shield, which power your power weapons. You have the yellow, which you can dash through. Both blue and yellow can be dashed through easily. Yellow will corrupt you if you if you absorb it with your shield or it hits you, it will reduce your maximum HP. So you want to avoid yellow orbs at all costs. The red orbs is where the parry mechanic comes into play. Red orbs and red lasers you cannot dodge through. If you dodge through it, they're called Nova projectiles, and they will damage your health regardless. And
big time.
So they give you a mechanic to where you can, using your melee button, you can parry the red orbs to send a wave of energy back at your enemies and clear the other projectiles that are coming at you. So it's not only like a defensive tool, it's also an offensive tool to kind of create some spacing for you to get in position where you need. And I just absolutely fell in love with it once I took the time to learn it. It is take some time to learn the timing of the parries, but once I did, I was just blowing through enemies. It was crazy. There's a boss where they send a lot of red projectiles, and you could parry to hit a mechanic in the arena. And I didn't realize that the first time I beat the boss, but I realized it the second time when I went on my big 2-hour run. I was like, I can parry to destroy these things? That is awesome. That just that means I can play it more safe. I don't have to go all the way over to this objective. I can send this wave of energy and do what I need to do. It also, staggers enemies, which means they're now down for the count. So you can walk up and either finish them with a melee or just unload a clip of bullets into them while they can't do anything back. Like, it's every piece of the the puzzle when it comes to combat in this game feeds into each other so well.
Yes.
And like, I cannot praise Housemarque enough for this, because they are just showing again that they are masters of the craft when it comes to these bullet hell shoot 'em up type games. Like, they are just so good at it.
No, you nailed it. Like, and like, I don't really like parries in games. I've talked about on this show how I platinum Bloodborne without ever really using the parry. I hate parrying. We actually talked about with Suda51 when he did our show a couple weeks ago. He said he hates parrying, and I'm like, that's a legendary game developer. That makes me feel happy. It's different in this game, and it didn't necessarily feel like your traditional video game parry. And I think, like, Jada, you just nailed it. Like, they give you a very limited set of tools in this game, and one of them is pew pew gun. One of them is the sort of like, you know, inhale the red stuff and spit it back.
Yoshi.
And then there's just like a big dumb melee punch, which is shockingly strong and like really, really good on like ground enemies. And I think, and this is probably because I've been playing a bunch of other games this year, but I think the one thing I was missing was I wanted like one more projectile. I wanted like a grenade I could launch that had like a big sort of like area of attack, and I could duck behind a pillar, throw a grenade, duck back, and then pew pew pew, right? And I think it's because, and I talked about this game on NVC recently. It's also on PlayStation. I've been playing a lot of this game called Dead Zone Rogue. It is a $20.
I love it.
It's so good. It's a $20 first-person roguelite game, sci-fi shooter, right? You get a grenade, you get a melee thing, and every single run is different. There are levels. The runs take you about 20-something minutes. Number go up at the end of every one. That one has everything you're describing about the sort of like random crazy builds that you just stack up, right? You'll end up with like grenades that do double frozen damage or something, right? You know, where it's like the fire is contagious for enemies. There's all these just completely insane builds. There's all these really fun levels. And coming off of that, which is absolutely like a mid-tier, you know, classic kind of vintage AA, almost feels like an old Midway game or something like that, right?
Yeah.
For $20. And then playing this, which is way more polished, but also kind of missing a bit of that kind of like oomph in terms of like, I want that grenade. I want a little bit more craziness in terms of my builds.
Yeah.
Like, you do get some weird, crazy builds in this game, but it never gets to the point where it's like, this feels totally broken in one direction, or it feels totally like, how did I, you know, there's one thing called a glass cannon in Dead Zone. And so I didn't want like totally over the top broken builds here, but I wanted it to feel just crazy enough where things start stacking in a way where you're like, man, I don't even know how the hell I got here, but this feels like a completely different scenario than the last time I run through this.
That's a really good point.
Have you in Dead Zone, Brian, have you gotten the upgrade where when you kill somebody, you go into stealth?
Yes.
It's so good.
It's
so
awesome.
Good. It's so great. And like, that's the thing that I think Returnal is missing. It's missing that kind of, and sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Max.
No. We're on the same page here.
But yeah, it's missing that degree of like, oh, I love that thing. I need that in my next run again. And it has a few of those, but I feel that it doesn't have enough of those types of things. That's kind of my biggest like disappointment with Saros is Returnal had 10 different weapons.
Yeah.
Saros, by my count, has 5. And now, mind you, the 5 in Saros have multiple modes that do different fire rates and different things like that. Returnal also had alternate fire rates. I think Saros does customize them a bit deeper on their builds, but you have less control over those.
Yeah.
So it feels a little less flashy, is, I guess, for lack of a better word.
It's less flashy and it's more sort of consistent, and consistency is good mechanically when you're trying to play a video game that's awesome, obviously.
Yeah.
But I think it is a sort of a byproduct of a kind of a setback when you're playing a video game that requires you to repeatedly do the same kind of thing over and over again, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's where you want a little bit more diversity in your projectiles and your weapons and your range and your builds. And like, you're spot on.
The like, for example, in Returnal, there's a weapon called the pylon driver, where you literally shoot these like electrified pylons into the ground, and it creates waves like basically traps of lightning lines for your enemies, and you lead your enemies through those for them to die while they go through that. I don't think Returnal has any, or Saros has any weapons that are on that level creatively on that same level. And that's a bummer for me because I really loved that about Returnal. They do have some cool weapons. They've got, auto seeking on your machine gun, so you can just spray and pray. The shotgun, you can rotate it 90 degrees, so it's a vertical spread versus a horizontal spread. But I feel like in Returnal, the weapons felt so much more alien, and that's what made them very cool and interesting. And Saros, it's like, hey, here's a pistol, here's a machine gun, here's a shotgun. I'm not saying the other weapons that are there for people who want to go into this a little bit, spoiler free, but the other two weapons are kind of along those lines.
Boomerang.
The fifth
I'm just kidding. You don't go boomerang.
The fifth weapon is a little different, but it's still kind of along those lines of like, yeah, I could see this just being a regular gun on Earth with that if we shot energy projectiles instead of bullets. And that's kind of where I kind of have, that's where one of my, I think it comes up short for me.
I think that's spot on. I think that like that in conjunction with the fact that this was honestly like I don't have a lot of like major gripes with this game. The closest one I have to something that was like kind of bothered me on repeated runs was that there's a lot of environments that probably could have been constricted a little bit. There's a lot of like there's it's not necessarily padding, but and you're looking at it right now, right? There's some areas where you'll run for like a good 30, 40, 60, 90 seconds without seeing any enemies. And there'll be some mild platforming. Like maybe you'll do a couple of jumps, which I don't necessarily think are this game's forte. They're fine, right? Yeah. That air dash is great. So when you can use it for stuff, cool. But that when on repeated runs, you're going through a lot of areas where it's just like, oh, I'm not actually doing much for a decent chunk of time right now. And it's a gorgeous looking game. It sounds great. It feels great to control. So you're never really bothered by it. But another thing that I really liked about Dead Zone Rogue is like you go into a procedurally generated room, you kill all the enemies, you dash to the orb, you get a thumbs up and a new toy. You throw it on top of the pile of toys. It interacts with them in a weird way. You go into the next room. Right?
Yeah, I mean, that's the environment stuff is I put that in the same category as like, this is not, it's doing a really good job at something that I don't expect it to do. Like
the environmental art is amazing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it would be really cool. I mean, it's really cool the first time you see it and then you keep seeing it. It just kind of, it's almost doing itself a disservice by the fact that you just kind of see the same thing over and over again. And like were this a conventional linear game, walking through these stretches of just sort of ambient silence of just these weird areas where there aren't a bunch of enemies trying to kill you, you'd be like taking it all in and just kind of wondering at it. And you maybe do that the first time you're in a particular biome in this, but otherwise you're just kind of like, all right, let me get to the next pew pew area. And also, there is a sprint. Jada informed me. The game did not, but you can if you hold down dash and wait a second, you'll just start booking it, which is very handy for getting through that. Apparently, they don't teach you that until like later on in the game, which is odd.
Yeah, they wait until there's a section with a bunch of traps and platforming sections. Like you probably want to move a little bit faster to get through these things. Like, hey, you know what? I would have liked that for the previous traps. On
the subject of just the brokenness of builds in roguelites, maybe the thing with this is it's a very serious roguelite. Like it's a very it doesn't get janky. Like it keeps it pretty reined in, but that is something, there is a charm about that where like, yes, if you're making peace with the fact that you're doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results, except you are getting different results. It's nice when those different results sometimes are in your favor. And you do get one of those completely absurd loadouts that makes no sense. And you're like, this is the coolest build I've ever had. And I don't get to keep it.
No, and when it's not in your favor in a great roguelite, it's interesting and it's a challenge, right? And it's fun in its own way because all of a sudden you're like, crap, I only have this weird weapon that only attacks this way. Time to get creative, time to get clever, and I think that gets players out of like a sort of a mold a little bit. And I think about games. I don't know, like Spelunky, Dead Cells,
You really have to make the tools work for you.
Yeah, Rogue Legacy, like stuff like that. Slay the Spire, Vampire Survivors. Like these are games where like you do a run, and after 15, 20 minutes, you take a screenshot of the run you're on versus the one you just went on, and they look like completely different experiences sometime. And I think that's really cool. Like when you're playing Dead Cells and you're like, oh, I ran with a different set of weapons this time, and this is how I'm attacking people. Mm-hmm. Like Vampire Survivors, and I'm playing the new one now. What's it called? Vampire Crawlers. And they both got that sort of same thing where like you start stacking up different weapons and items, and you get very different results. And it makes later runs a lot more interesting and crazy and fun. And I don't know. I don't think this game is really trying to do that for better or worse. Mm-hmm. Like it is very much like focused on like, you know, it's like when you go to In-N-Out and they don't have like, you know, a chicken sandwich. Mm-hmm. They're like, we're doing like 5 things really well. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you just want a little more than that. So I do wonder if, because, you know, we talked about it before, Returnal got a lot of patches. That game grew a lot over time. Every game does now, which makes reviewing games fun. But I think that what's interesting is that they have some opportunities to early on bring in a lot of players who like want this very hardcore, deliberate experience, and then later on start adding extra parameters and patches and options and, you know, modes where they can start stacking the craziness a little bit, and they can get a little sillier and a little more broken with some builds. Because I think that to me is where a legacy of like a really great roguelike kind of finds its footing forever, and becomes one of those things that people return to for years and years and years.
Hey, thanks for watching this clip from Beyond, IGN's weekly PlayStation show. You can find the full episode over on youtube.com/IGN Games. And don't forget, new episodes of Beyond drop every Wednesday on IGN.com, the IGN Games YouTube, and all your favorite podcast platforms. Thanks again for watching, and as always, Beyond.